Hi, I'm Tiffany, and welcome to Towering TBR. Today, I get to film one of my favorite videos, my anticipated releases for 2024. If you're new, I am chronically ill and disabled. I read a wide variety of books, as will be evident from this list. So please like and subscribe if you want more bookish videos from me. Publishing dates do change, so I'm going to put up what I have currently, but know that sometimes they get pushed back. All right. In January, there are four that I'm really excited about. The first is The Wild and Distant Seas by Tara Carr Roberts. This is kind of a reimagining of Moby Dick. After Ahab left to go hunt down the white whale, this follows his wife and several generations after and the choices that they make. It's also tagged as magical realism, but I'm not really sure what part uh, magic really plays in the story. Also on January 2nd is a memoir, More, an memoir of an open marriage by Molly Rodden Winter. This is the author's story about her and her husband exploring ethical non-monogamy in opening their relationship. They lay down some ground rules, but apparently a lot of them get broken, and this is kind of her journey of what is happening in her very non-traditional relationship. I think it sounds fascinating. On January 23rd, there's a book called The Day Tripper coming out by James Goodhand. This is a kind of a time travel shenanigan story. It sort of reminds me of Una Out of Order, except for in that one, Una was doing 1 year of her life, and then on New Year's, she would skip to another year of her life. Whereas with this one, it seems like it changes every single day. He apparently needs to closely examine his decisions and the consequences and learn something. And I think that that sounds really good. Also on the 23rd is a book called Womb City. This is a grim dystopian set in a future Botswana, and people have the ability to move their consciousness from body to body. However, Neela's body is kind of being controlled by her husband, and after a disastrous hit and run, she is possessed by a vengeful spirit. It looks really interesting and uh, quite a grim dystopian, but aren't they always? All right, in February, there are four books I'm really excited for. The first is going to be published on February 6th, and that is called A Sign of Her Own by Sarah Marsh. This is a historical fiction about a deaf woman who studied under Alexander Graham Bell, and when he invents the telephone, she is asked to kind of speak up in defense, but she says, how she basically feels betrayed because he didn't really consider deaf people in his invention of the telephone. This is based on actual journals of relationships that really existed. Also on February 6th, there is a middle grade book I'm looking forward to. It's called The School of Invisible Boys by Sean David Hutchinson. And it's about this kid, and he is getting bullied and he's dealing with feelings of loneliness. And he starts to kind of turn invisible, and he finds out that he and some other invisible people have to kind of band together to kind of defeat some sort of magical baddie. Looks really good, and I love books that focus on bullying and loneliness. My absolute hands down favorite, most anticipated release is also coming out on February 6th, and it is an essay collection called Disability Intimacy, which is edited by Alice Wong. She edited the collection Disability Visibility a few years back, and I found that to be really eye-opening. And it helped me find more disabled creators and seek out their work as well. This is going to be focused on intimacy. So often people who are disabled are kind of infantilized and thought of as asexual. And while there's nothing wrong with being asexual, there is something wrong with taking away parts of a person just because they're disabled. And I think that the essays are going to focus on that. I can't wait. I've already pre-ordered it. I'm so excited. On February 13th, we're getting a new one from Catherine Arden. She wrote the beautiful Winter Night trilogy, which was very fairy tale and folk-like. And I think this one is going to be somewhat in the same vein. It's a historical fiction. It's called The Warm Hands of a Ghost, and it is set during World War One. A brother and sister are out on the front. The sister is a nurse, and when she gets wounded, she is taken out of the war. And she receives word that her brother is dead. But she's suspicious and she starts looking into it, and there's definitely some sort of supernatural element to it. In March, there are 5 books that I'm looking forward to. The first is a new book by Simone St. James. She writes really good paranormal mysteries, and this one is called Murder Road. Two newlyweds are on their way to their honeymoon when they pick up a hitchhiker, but the hitchhiker dies in the vehicle because they were already wounded, and these two become the police's main suspects because lots of people have been murdered on this road. And I think they have to kind of try and solve what's going on so that they can, vindicate themselves. There's usually a supernatural element, but I don't know what it is. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Coming out that same day is a book called The Great Divide by Christina Enriquez. This is a historical fiction set during the building of the Panama Canal. And there are apparently kind of an ensemble cast whose stories intertwine. I don't know more than that, but it sounds really good, so I've added it to my list. On the 19th, a book called Cascade Failure by L.M. Saugus is coming out. And this has already been compared to Becky Chambers, so I already have ridiculously high hopes, and I've already hyped it in my head quite a lot. But it is a sci-fi adventure that includes artificial intelligence and something about things breaking down, which causes a cascade of things falling apart. I don't know much more than that, but it was also compared to The Expanse, which I love. So yes, my expectations are through the roof on that one. Also on the 19th, we've got Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis. This is a cozy debut science fiction story about a luxury hotel that kind of travels out in space. And several of the guests have some sort of secret, and there's some sort of overarching mystery plot. The last one I have for March is on the 19th, and it's called The Exvangelicals by Sarah McCammon. This is part memoir, part investigative journalism to talk about her leaving the evangelical community, as well as the trend for a lot of people to be leaving the evangelical community as well. It looks to be fascinating, and I can't wait for it. In April, there are 4 books I'm really excited for. The first is going to be released on April 2nd, and is called The History of the World in 12 Shipwrecks by David Gibbons. This is a nonfiction story talking about different historical events in human history, where we find out the information because an archaeologist has kind of uncovered some stuff during shipwrecks. If you've been around this channel for any length of time, you know I like shipwreck stories, so I'm really excited for this one. On the 9th, Amanda Montella is publishing her new book. It's called The Age of Magical Overthinking. I recently read her book Cultish and absolutely loved it, so I'm very excited to get to her newest book. It is billed as a delicious blend of cultural criticism and personal narrative that explores cognitive biases and the power, disadvantages, and highlights of magical thinking. And apparently it's billed to be funny as well. So I think that will be really good. On the 23rd, there's another sci-fi I'm looking forward to. It's called Ocean's Godori by Elaine Yu Cho. And this is a space opera about Ocean. Her best friend is accused of murder, and so she and a ragtag group of people try to set out to prove their friend's innocence. Apparently, it also has a strong romantic subplot and critiques colonialism. And lastly, on April 26th, we are going to get a mystery called How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. Apparently, a teenage girl is told by a fortune teller that she is going to be murdered. And so she kind of keeps these really detailed notes on all of her interactions with everybody because she's trying to figure out who it is that is going to murder her. And she is murdered 60 years later, and her great niece, I believe, uses her notes to try and figure out who murdered her great aunt. But unfortunately, she had quite a few enemies, so there's quite a few suspects. Also, as she starts looking into it more, she becomes vulnerable, and the killer may start coming after her. Looks really good, and a completely different premise for a mystery book. On May 21st, Stuart Turton is publishing his third book, and it is called The Last Murder at the End of the World. It is part sci-fi, part mystery. So it's a future dystopian world where this fog has killed so many people. And there's a small community of people who have built kind of this fortress to keep themselves safe from the fog. But apparently, when a murder happens, the defenses are taken down and they only have 92 hours to solve who murdered the person and put the defenses back up before the fog wipes out everybody. However, the wrinkle is that somehow everybody's memories are gone, and even the killer themselves does not know that they committed the crime. In June, there are two books that I'm looking forward to. The first comes out June 11th, and it is Trevor Noah's newest memoir called Places of Gold. This is going to be primarily focusing on his adult life. He grew up in South Africa and then moved to the United States to become the showrunner for The Daily Show, and it's going to focus on that chunk of time as an early adult and into more recent years. I read his first, which was called Born a Crime, and it was excellent, so I can't wait for this follow-up. The other book is supposed to come out June 25th, and it is the third book in the B.B. Alston middle grade magical trilogy, but we don't have a title yet. The first book is called Amari and the Night Brothers, and I loved books 1 and 2, and I'm very excited for book 3. Skipping down to August, I am looking forward to a new trilogy that is starting by the authors that wrote The Expanse. James S.A. Corey is their pen name together. And they are coming out with a space opera called The Mercy of the Gods. This is apparently about a variety of different alien species, including a human named David, and he is kidnapped by another alien species, and they have to find kind of a solution to this enemy, or else everyone will face extinction. Sounds really good. I need to finish The Expanse first, which I'm nearly there, and then I will be very excited to pick up this book in August. In September, I have 3 I'm excited for. The first is supposed to come out September 10th, and it is called Silverborn. It is in the Morrigan Crow series by Jessica Townsend. This was supposed to come out in 2023, but it got pushed back, so I'm really excited for it to come out in September of next year. We don't really know what it's about, but I imagine it's more about her coming into her power and learning more about this world and her history. If you were like me and really loved The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, then good news. There is a sequel coming out called Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is also coming out on the 10th of September. And it is going to be partly focused on Arthur Parnassus, who was a character in the book. It's going to be a little bit of his backstory, as well as learning about a new magical kid. I'm hoping it is as sweet and heartwarming as the first one. I am really excited for it. Lastly, on September 17th, the sequel to Ordinary Monster by J.M. Miro is coming out. It is called The Bringer of Dust. I only gave the first book 3.5 stars because it was so much setup. But by the time we finally got to the end, I am gripped to know more. There are parallel worlds, kind of, and I want to learn more about that. And so I'm very excited for the second book, which comes out on the 17th. 2 more things that are basically only speculation, but I will be snatching them up if anything is announced. Sarah Waters is rumored to be coming out with a new book in 2024. We don't have any information or any names or anything like that. However, I have read 4 of her books. She has 6 published so far, and I can't wait to read them all. She is one of my favorite authors. And speaking of favorite authors, Dennis E. Taylor is writing a 5th book in the Bobaverse series. It is called Not Till We Are Lost. I follow him on Threads, and he has said that Ray Porter has now been working on the narration of the book, so I'm really hoping it comes out soon. I can't wait to get more from that world. It's such a fun space opera with lots of humor. Those are all the books I'm looking forward to. Tell me, are there any books you're looking forward to that I didn't talk about? Are there any you're glad I put on your radar? Let's have a chat down in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye.